Welcome, friends. This is A Course in Miracles, Palm Beach Study Group. Uh, Today we're on Chapter 12, Section 8. It's on page 233 in the text. And the name of this section is The Attraction of Love for Love. Do you really believe that you can kill the Son of God? The Father has hidden his Son safely within himself and kept him far away from your destructive thoughts. But you know neither the Father nor the Son because of them. You attack the real world every day and every hour and every minute, and yet you are surprised that you cannot see it. If you seek love in order to attack it, you will never find it. For love is sharing. For if love is sharing, how can you find it except through itself? Offer it and it will come to you, because it is drawn to itself. But offer attack and love will remain hidden, for it can live only in peace. So I'm going to reread it. Does your ego self really believe that you can kill your spiritual self, the Son of God? The Father has hidden your spiritual self safely within himself and kept far away from your destructive ego thoughts. But you know neither the Father nor the spiritual Son because of those ego thoughts. You attack the spiritual world every day and every hour and every minute with your ego thoughts, but you'll never find the spirit world in the ego mind. If love is sharing, how can you find it except through itself? And love is sharing. And so offer it and it will come to you. If you offer love, then love will come to you. If you seek your spiritual self in your spiritual mind, you will find it. It will be drawn to you. But if you're going to offer ego attack, then love is just going to remain hidden, because love can only live in peace. Any questions, comments? David?
Yes. I always, in my rating, I put, don't be afraid to love people. Don't be afraid of rejection. If you love somebody, let them know. Let go of the fear. You're afraid you'll be hurt. A lot of people are afraid they'll be hurt, so they don't share their love. When you share the love, it goes back and forth. And if we are one, and if you're loving yourself and you're loving, the other person as yourself, it's a win-win situation. And if they're not capable of doing that, you love them anyways. Yeah, that's it.
Yes, thank you, David. Paragraph 2. God's Son is safe in as safe as his Father, for the Son knows his Father's protection and cannot fear. His Father's love holds him in perfect peace, and needing nothing, he asks for nothing. Yet he is far from you whose self he is, for you choose to attack him, and he disappeared from your sight into his Father. He did not change, but you did. For a split mind and all its works were not created by the Father and could not live in the knowledge of him. Again, I'll reread it. God's Son with a capital S, so the spiritual Son is safe in his Father. For the spiritual Son knows his Father's protection and cannot fear. Our spiritual selves cannot fear. Our spiritual selves' Father's love holds him in perfect peace, holds us in perfect peace. And needing nothing, we ask for nothing on the spiritual level because we have everything. So we don't need. Needing is implying that you don't have it and you need it. What they're saying is you're a spiritual being, you are in heaven, you already have everything. You don't need anything. But your ego self, this is sentence 3 now, but your ego self is far from you whose self he is. Wait a minute. Yeah, he is far from you whose self he is, where you choose to attack him. Yeah, so if your ego self is far from your spiritual self, if the ego is choosing to attack and the spiritual self is disappears into the Father, your spiritual self did not change, but you changed by being an ego. For the split mind, we split our minds ourselves. God didn't do that. We did it because we thought we could be separate from our Father. And so we split our mind, and so we created the ego. For a split mind and all its works were not created by the Father. And could not live in the knowledge of him. The ego could not live in the knowledge of him. Any questions, comments? Paragraph 3. When you make visible what is not true, what is true became invisible to you. Yet it cannot be invisible in itself, for the Holy Spirit sees it with perfect clarity. It is invisible to you because you are looking at something else. Yet it is no more up to you to decide what is visible and what is invisible than it is up to you to decide what reality is. What can be seen is what the Holy Spirit sees. The definition of reality is God's, not yours. He created it, and he knows what it is. You who knew have forgotten. And unless he had given you a way to remember, you would have condemned yourself to oblivion. Like, wow. So when you made visible what is not true, when you created the ego, when we created the ego, what was true, the spiritual, became invisible to our ego selves. But the spiritual is not invisible to the Holy Spirit, who sees it with perfect clarity. And it's invisible to your ego self because you're looking at something else. You're just not looking at it. It's there. It's always been there. But if you're not looking at it, then of course you don't see it. But it's not up to us, our ego selves, to decide what is visible and what is invisible. We can't, our ego selves can't decide what reality is, because reality is of God. It's not of the ego. God created reality and he knows what it is. You do know at one time before you created ego, but now you've forgotten. And when we created ego, God placed the Holy Spirit in our mind to give us a way to remember what we had forgotten. And if he hadn't done that, we would have condemned ourselves to oblivion. But the Father did not want that. Paragraph 4. Because of your Father's love, you can never forget him. For no one can forget what God himself placed in his memory. You can deny it, but you cannot lose it. A voice will answer every question you ask, and a vision will correct the perception of everything you see. For what you have made invisible is the only truth, and what you have not heard is the only answer. God would reunite you with yourself and did not abandon you in your distress. You are waiting only for him and do not know it. Yet his mercy shines in your mind and cannot be obliterated. It is no more past than future, being forever, always. That's a beautiful paragraph, and I don't think it needs any interpretation. Any comments, questions? Number 5. You but have to ask for this memory, and you will remember. Yet the memory of God cannot shine in a mind that has obliterated it and wants to keep it so. For the memory of God can draw only in a mind that chooses to remember and that has relinquished the insane desire to control reality. You who cannot even control yourself should hardly aspire to control the universe. But look upon what you have made of it and rejoice that it is not so. Again, we have free will, and spirit will not impose itself upon us. It's always there waiting for us. And all we have to do is ask. You but have to ask, and you will remember. Paragraph 6. Son of God, do not be content with nothing. What is not real cannot be seen and has no value. God could not offer his Son what has no value, nor could his Son receive it. You were redeemed the instant you thought you had deserted him. Everything you made has never been and is invisible because the Holy Spirit does not see it. Yet what he does see is yours to behold. And through his vision, your perception is healed. You have made invisible the only truth that this world holds. Valuing nothing, you have sought nothing. But making nothing real to you, you have seen it. I'm sorry, by making nothing real to you, you have seen it, but it is not there. And Christ is invisible to you because of what you have made visible to yourself. So this whole reality that we live in the ego world, this whole universe of physicality, God doesn't even see it. And when people say, well, how could God let these terrible things happen? I thought he was just and merciful and all of this, and why does these bad things happen to good people and blah, 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 blah. That's all ego thinking. This ego world is only real to people who are looking at it through ego eyes. From Holy Spirit's point of view, it doesn't even exist. It's completely invisible. It's not real. Only Spirit is real. So,
I have a comment if you don't mind.
yeah.
So when one thinks, I'm just using this as an example, when one thinks of themselves as unworthy, for example, as an unworthy person, that I think is what this is describing in this particularly this last paragraph, that's you're living in ego when you feel unworthy of yourself.
Yes.
That's an eye opener for me.
Oh, really? Okay.
And so because yes, and then to go on to say, the paragraph goes on to say that God doesn't even see that. God does not see you as unworthy. And the Holy Spirit does not see you as unworthy. They do not see that.
Correct.
So this is what I'm going to say. I don't know. So a follower. So I feel like I'm a follower of Christ. I'm a follower of Jesus. I'm a follower of God. And this is what I'm learning is to like myself more because that's the truth.
Yes,
I find it amazing.
your true self is a spiritual being,
Yes.
completely worthy of everything our Father has to give us, completely worthy of love and peace and joy. I mean, everything that's good. We're definitely worthy of that. And we have that. We just have to remember that. The first sentence of paragraph 5 says, you have but to ask for this memory and you will remember.
Yes.
Because when we created the ego, we forgot.
Correct.
And the point I wanted to make was that God is not in control of the ego world. And God doesn't allow bad things to happen to good people or bad things to happen at all. We're doing that. We
That's
collectively, as the ego self, we are creating any evil in the world is man-made. We've created it for ourselves. Don't blame it on the devil. There is no devil. Don't blame it on God. God had nothing to do with it.
Because he doesn't even see it.
That's right. He doesn't. It's invisible to him. All that God sees is his child has gone to sleep and his child is dreaming, but he doesn't see the dream. He's just waiting for his child to wake up from the dream.
And therefore, that's, in other words, the reason, well, I don't know, I'm putting words in. It seems to me that the reason God, I'm saying reason, but I don't really mean reason. God does not see anything but love because that's what he is. He is love, period. He doesn't see any of that anything else other than he couldn't give love if he saw anything other than love.
Okay.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yes. So God's got nothing to do with what's going on here in the ego world, which is a very hard concept for people to accept.
I agree.
But, I think I'm going to redo that song. What's God got to do with it? What? Nothing.
I think the words are what's love got to do
I'm
with it.
saying I'm redoing the song. What's
I get
God
it. Okay.
got to do?
Got a little play on words there,
Yeah,
John.
yeah.
Good, gotcha.
Okay. So we're on paragraph 7. Yet it does not matter how much distance you have tried to interpose between your awareness and truth. God's Son can be seen because his vision is shared. The Holy Spirit looks upon him and sees nothing else in you. What is invisible to you is perfect in his sight and encompasses all of it. He has remembered you because he forgot not the Father. You looked upon the unreal and found despair. Yet by seeking the unreal, what else could you find? The unreal world is a thing of despair, for it can never be. And you who share God's being with him could never be content without reality. What God did not give you has no power over you, and the attraction of love for love remains irresistible. For it is the function of love to unite all things unto itself, and to hold all things together by extending its wholeness. So no matter how deep you delve into the ego world, you can't completely separate yourself from the Son of God, from the Holy Spirit, from the Father, from the Spirit. No matter how hard you try, you just can't do that. And the Holy Spirit looks upon us, and all that he sees is the spiritual beings that we are. So what's invisible to our ego selves is perfectly clear through Holy Spirit. And he's remembering who we are for us. He's holding that memory for us in our minds. It is in our mind. But we do have to seek it. So as you seek, you shall find. And the ego world is a thing of despair. What else could it be? If it thinks it's separated from God, what else could it be but a world of despair? But it's an unreal world. And it has no power over us. And the attraction of love for love remains irresistible. Because that is the key. The spiritual key within ourselves is love. No matter how deep we devolve into ego, there's always a little piece of love. There's always a touch of love. Somehow, somewhere, in everyone. And it's that's going to pull us back into spirit. It's that the function of love is to unite all things unto itself and to hold together all things by extending itself in wholeness. So love is the answer. Love is the key. And our last paragraph, number 8. The real world was given you by God in loving exchange for the world you made and the world you see. Only take it from the hand of Christ and look upon it. Its reality will make everything else invisible, for beholding it is total perception. And as you look upon it, you will remember that it was always so. Nothingness will become invisible, for you will at last have seen truly. Redeemed perception is easily translated into knowledge, for only perception is capable of error, and perception has never been. Being corrected, it gives place to knowledge, which is forever the only reality. The atonement is but the way back to what was never lost. Your Father could not cease to love his Son.
Wow. That's quite a story.
Yes, it is. We've reached the end of our reading for today. David, do you have anything to share? Helen, do you have any more to share?
I don't, John. This was a very I like this chapter a lot. And it's I learned a lot from it.
Good. Yes, it's very profound, and it's worth meditating upon and internalizing. You know, that's the whole thing about studying the Course. It's great to read it and intellectualize it and discuss it and what, but one really needs to internalize the meaning of the words, to visualize and, meditate upon them, that, wow, the Holy Spirit does indwell my mind. Love does attract love, and the real world is the spiritual world, and all of the ego world is just an illusion, and I don't have to buy into that. I can choose. I have free will. I can choose the spirit world and forsake the ego world, which I created, but now I realize I made a mistake in doing that, and I can correct that mistake. It's not a life sentence. I'm not condemned for eternity in hell. I can go through the atonement and reunite myself with my Father through the Holy Spirit in my mind, just by changing my thoughts.
And that piece of information is just so valuable.
Yes.
John, this line here, what God did not give you has no power over you. So he's talking about what God did not give you, which would be jealousy. He did not give you that. He did not give you
all of the ego
hate
world
or anger. Yes. Okay. So he did not give that to you.
No.
So it has no power over you.
No. No, anything of the ego world God did not give to us. We created that for ourselves. And it has no power over us unless we're
Allow it.
yes, if that's what we're choosing, if that's what we're allowing, then yeah, it does have power over us. But it's not God who's doing it. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
God is not allowing the evil in the world. God doesn't even see what's happening in the ego world.
And then this next line, part of that line, and the attraction of love for love remains irresistible. So the way I read that is we're always seeking for love. We're always seeking love. It's irresistible to us.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
You know, I mean, you see stories in the movies and on TV and stuff, you know, the most hardened criminal, he's murdered 1 million people and all of this, but he loves his daughter. You know, it's like, I'd do anything for my daughter or my child, or however. I mean, there's always that element of love in everybody, regardless of what acting out they've done in the ego world.
I think that's so important for people to know also. You know, what comes to mind is people that are addicted to drugs, or people that, you know, have alcohol problems. Well, down deep inside, they're still looking for love, but they don't know it's there. It's already there.
Well, yeah, and the other part of that is that it's you basically have to love yourself. You have to love your spiritual self. I mean, the ego world is a world of duality, of us and them, of inside and outside, of up and down, of here and there. I mean, it's a thing, and the world of spirit is oneness. It's all united. It's a totality. There's only one. And so the problem with and another problem we have is with our language, because we only have in English that one word, love. We don't distinguish between different types of love. We have to put adjectives on it, you know,
Yeah.
brotherly love, platonic love, spiritual love, emotional love, you know, sexual love. I mean, there's just all of these, you know, we have to modify it because we only have that one word. But the idea here is that love is the creative force of the universe, of the spiritual universe. And God created us by extending his love. That's how the process of creation. And so when we're talking about love here as being the attraction for love remains irresistible, we're talking on a spiritual level. We're not talking on an emotional level.
Right. Okay. That's a good distinction. Great. Thank you, John.
All righty. Thank you, Helen. So we have reached the end of, actually the end of chapter 12. The next time we'll start chapter 13.
That sounds good, John.
So let us take a few moments of of peace and quiet as we end our recording.